Hey everyone, this is Michelle from Top 40 Strings, and for today's video we're going to talk about how to have good intonation, or basically how to play in tune. So the difference between a good violinist and someone who doesn't sound as good, a big part of it is whether they can play in tune or not. I don't know if you've heard your teachers telling you you're too flat or you're too sharp and you have to adjust where you're playing your note. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to give you an example of how something sounds good and how it sounds bad. So here is when everything is in tune. And here's when it's not in tune. So hopefully you could tell that the second one sounded a lot worse than the first time, and that's because I purposely played some of the notes flat or sharp. The notes didn't blend together very well. So how do we make sure that we're playing in tune? You know, it's hard. I know a lot of people think they're tone deaf, like, oh, I can't tell at all what the notes sound like. I don't know if it's sharp or flat. My teacher tells me I'm too sharp, but I have no idea. So the first thing you always want to make sure before you start playing is that your violin is in tune. You have to make sure that the open strings, each of these G, D, A, and E, are in tune. So to help us with that, we're going to use a tuner. You can buy tuners online or at the music store, or you can even download an app to use. So I'm going to show you one of the apps that I use, which is G Strings, that I got from Google Play. So all you have to do is play the note that you want to tune, and it should pick it up and it will tell you whether you're in tune or not. So the first note that we're playing is the open A string. It's around 440. I like to play it at 440, or just slightly sharper is okay. So that's the A. Then the D. G. And E. You'll notice that it still moves around a little bit. It's never going to be perfect and stand still in one place. But what you want to be careful of is when you're bowing, you don't want to bow too lightly. Sometimes I tell my students to start tuning and they're very shy about it, like, or they just play short bow strokes. But when you're tuning, you need to bow very loud and clear. Otherwise, you won't be able to hear it as well. Now, I know there are other ways of tuning as well, but since I'm talking strictly to beginners who really don't know what to do, I'm starting from the very beginning. So if you're more advanced and you tune in different ways, that's perfectly fine. When we're playing, a very important thing for a musician is to have a very well-trained ear. You have to listen very carefully when you're playing and you're practicing, and that starts just from the beginning, even with tuning and when you play your scales. Making sure that each note is in tune. So how can you tell? If you can't tell, then use the tuner like you did when we were tuning the instrument. So we're going to play a D major scale, and I'll show you an example of what I mean, how you can check each note and make sure it's in tune. So here's a D major scale, and I'll have the scale somewhere on the screen so you can see it and play along too if you want. So anywhere within that orange range would be fine. It doesn't have to be perfectly, like I said, on that one centered spot. The good thing about this is you can tell when you're a little sharp or flat. So let's say I'm playing B, and so that looks a little flat. Now that's a little sharp. I could just move it down a little. So I'm adjusting my finger and making sure that it matches with the tuner. And I'm also using my ear to listen to it. It's really important that you also use your ear to listen. Don't just rely on the technology to tell you, oh, it says I'm too high, okay, I'll go down now. Because using a tuner is kind of like using GPS if you know how to drive, and you use the GPS to tell you where to go. But at the same time, you kind of want to know how to read maps too. You want to understand where you are, because what if your GPS fails you or you lose your signal or something and you're lost? You want to at least know, where's north, south, east, west, and get an idea to help you get through, to navigate through wherever you're going. And that's the same thing with the tuner. It will train you as you keep listening and listening over and over again to the same notes. You'll start to get really clear on which notes sound more in tune. Using the tuner is a great way to help you get started. But then after that, you'll want to start being able to do it on your own. So when you're using the tuner, just imagine what it would be like to not have it as well. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.